The monitoring station hung in the darkness like a silver eye, watching. Over 1,000 star systems, inside. Junior Observer Tellus pressed his slender fingers against the console, his blue skin pale with worry, the distress. Signal screamed through the speakers. Again raw and desperate, how long? Until they fall, asked his supervisor. Commander Yalish, her voice was tired. They had seen this before, 2 days. Maybe 3 if they're lucky, tells. Turned off the sound, the screaming was too much to bear, Kashyyytu doesn't have weapons, they're just miners, the Voron. Swarm will take everything, the Voron. Swarm, even the name made species across the galaxy afraid, they were like locusts made of metal and hate. Consuming world after world, the hive. Mind-controlled millions of drones. And they never stopped, never showed mercy. Never grew tired, Commander Yalish looked at the star map floating in the air between them. Kashyyytu was a small yellow dot far from any coalition fleet. Send their distress call to all nearby ships, maybe someone will help, but both of them knew the truth, no one would come, it was too far, too dangerous. Voron swarm killed everything that challenged them. Kashyyytu would become another dead world, another story. Whispered in fear across the stars. Signal went out into the black ocean of space, carrying the desperate hope of 40,000 people who had no idea they had already been abandoned across the galaxy. Most ships ignored it, pirates thought it was a trap, merchants changed course to avoid the danger. Military vessels checked their orders and kept moving. The Coalition Council met in their great chamber and voted. Intervention was too risky, they would remember Kashyyytu in their prayers, but there was one ship that heard the call and did not look away. The Perseverance cut through the fabric of space, its massive engines pushing it toward a new world that would become humanity's 4th colony beyond Earth. Inside, 3,000 people lived in the rotating sections, growing food, raising children, and dreaming of the planet they would build together. Captain Sarah Chen sat in her command chair studying reports when her communications officer spoke up. Captain, we're picking up a distress signal. It's bad, Sarah. Listen to the translation. Words of fear, of homes burning, of children crying. The voice begged anyone listening to help them. She felt something cold settle in her stomach. Where is it coming from? Kashyyytu. It's 3 days off our course, ma'am. I'm also detecting another signal. It's from something called the Aurelian Coalition. They're warning all ships to stay away. There's something called a Voron swarm. Attack in progress. Sarah stood up. Her crew watched her waiting. They all knew that look on her face. She was making a decision that would change everything. Change course, take us to Kashyyytu. Before her first officer, Commander Liu, stepped closer. His voice was quiet. Captain, we're a colony ship. We have families aboard, children. This coalition is warning everyone away for a reason. I know what we are, Sarah said. Her voice was steady and calm, but we're also human, and humans don't ignore people who are dying when we can do something about it. We don't even know these aliens. We've never made contact with them before. Sarah looked at the star map, at the small dot that was Kashyyytu. Somewhere on that world, people were looking at the sky and praying for rescue. They called for help. Commander, that's all I need to know. Prepare the Marines. Wake up everyone in the military section, and somebody send a message to this coalition. Tell them humanity is responding to the distress call. The bridge crew moved fast. They had trained for this, though they hoped they would never need to. The Perseverance was built after Earth's terrible unification. Wars when humanity had almost destroyed itself. Every colony ship carried weapons and soldiers, now not for conquest but for protection. Never again would humans be helpless. In the SEO military section, men and women climbed out of sleep pods and checked their armor. They had been colonists and farmers and teachers once, but Earth's history had taught them that peace required the ability to defend it. They strapped on powered armor that could survive almost anything. They loaded weapons that could punch through steel. They prepared to drop into a battle for people they had never met. 2 hours later, the Coalition monitoring station received a response to their warning. It was short and in a language their computers struggled to translate. We are humans from Earth. We have received the distress call from Cacheta 4. We are going to help them. You can join us or get out of our way, Commander. Yish stared at the message. What are humans? Check the database. Tell us search through thousands of known species. Nothing. They're not in our records. They must be from an uncontacted world. They're flying into a Voron swarm attack zone. They're going to die. Yalish felt sick. First Cachet 4 now. These mysterious humans. Should we send ships to stop them? Yalish thought about it, then shook her head. No, send observers. If these humans want to throw their lives away, at least we should record it. Maybe their sacrifice will mean something. The Perseverance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Cachet 4 system. Immediately, alarms screamed. Varan ships filled the space around the planet. Like angry insects, the surface below was burning. Sarah Chen stood on her bridge and watched the enemies swarm turn toward them. 3,000 humans against an army that had destroyed dozens of worlds. She smiled. It was not a happy smile. Launch all shuttles. Get our people down there. Let's show this galaxy what humans do when someone needs help. The battle was about to begin. Voron swarm detected the new ship and calculated instantly. One vessel. Unknown design. No weapons fire yet. Classification prey. Priority low. Threat. They were wrong. Perseverance's launch bays opened like the mouth of a beast. 30 heavy shuttles burst out, engines screaming as they dove toward the burning planet below. Each shuttle carried 100 Marines in full combat armor. Behind them, the colony ship's defensive weapons came online and began firing at any Voron drone that came too close. On the Coalition monitoring station, Junior Observer Tellus watched his screen with his mouth hanging open. Commander, they're there. Attacking. These humans are actually attacking. Get me visual on those shuttles. I want to see what we're dealing with. The image appeared showing the human craft cutting through space at speeds that made Tellus feel sick just watching. They moved with sharp, aggressive turns that would crush most species under the acceleration forces. Those movements would kill an Aurelian. The G-forces alone would turn our internal organs to liquid. Commander. Yalish leaned forward, studying the strange aliens piloting those ships. They were bipedal with flat faces and forward-facing eyes, predator eyes. What kind of world produces creatures that can survive that kind of punishment? They were about to find out. The first shuttle hit atmosphere like a meteor, plasma flames wrapping around Its hull, Voran fighters swarmed it, firing energy weapons that could melt through most armor. The shuttles' shields flared and held, then it fired back. The human weapons were primitive, by coalition standards, just metal projectiles fired at high speed, but they worked. Varan drones exploded as tungsten rounds tore through them. The shuttle punched through the enemy formation and kept falling toward the surface. On the ground, the cachette people huddled in their last fortress. They were a gentle species with long ears and soft gray fur covering their bodies. They had built their civilization on mining and art, never expecting to need weapons. Now their beautiful cities were burning. Elder Priest Magar watched the sky through a cracked window. Moravan ships were landing, disgorging their soldiers. His people had maybe hours left. He had sent the distress call 3 days ago, but no one had answered. They would die here, forgotten by a galaxy too afraid to help. Then the sky caught fire. Human shuttles came down in a thunderous landing pattern, forming a protective circle around the cachette fortress. Rear ramps dropped open and the Marines poured out, weapons ready. They moved with frightening speed and precision, each one knowing exactly where to go. Sergeant Marcus Webb checked his squad's positions on his helmet display. His power armor made him look like a walking tank covered in plates that could stop almost anything. He carried a rifle that could punch through concrete and a combat knife strapped to his chest. Behind him, his 20 Marines took cover and prepared for contact. Hostiles incoming. 200 M, reported Corporal Yamamoto. Looks like we pissed them off. Marcus grinned inside his helmet. Good. Let them come. First squad set up the heavy guns. Second squad prepare grenades. Show these bugs what humans do to home invaders. The Voron soldiers rushed forward in perfect coordination. Controlled by the hive mind, they didn't fear death because they weren't truly individuals. They were parts of a greater whole, and losing a few parts meant nothing. They had never fought humans before. The human weapons opened fire with a sound like thunder. Varan soldiers fell by the dozens, their armor no match for weapons designed on a death world. Everything tried to kill you. When the enemy got closer, the humans threw grenades that created massive explosions. When they got even closer, the humans met them with knives and powered fists. On the monitoring station, Tellus watched in horror and amazement. There they're fighting hand to hand. Why would anyone choose to fight in close combat? Because they can. Commander Yalish whispered. She was watching a human Marine grab a van soldier and literally tear it apart with his armored hands. Look at their strength, look at their speed. What kind of evolution creates something like this? A junior analyst pulled up data from the scans. Commander, I have preliminary information on their home world. It's a Class 12 death world. The command center went silent. Class 12 was almost unheard of. It meant a planet so hostile that most species would die within hours of landing. Go on, Yales said quietly. Gravity is 1.2 times coalition standard. Atmosphere is 21%. Oxygen, which is highly corrosive and supports rapid combustion. The planet has active weather systems that can produce winds over 200 km/h. Tectonic activity creates constant earthquakes. And according to their biosphere data, 90% of life forms are predatory in nature. Tellys felt dizzy. They evolved as predators on a world trying to kill Them every day, no wonder they're so strong, no wonder they don't fear that. Voron, inside the Kashyyyk fortress. Young Kashyyyk girl named Pyrrha peeked. Through a crack in the wall, she saw the strange aliens fighting the monsters that had destroyed her home. One of them, the big one with markings on his armor, fought like something from the old stories. He moved so fast, and when the monsters hit him, he just kept fighting. Then she saw him get hit by a plasma blast that melted through his armor. He fell to one knee, smoke rising from his side. Pyrrha felt tears in her eyes. The hero was dying, but Marcus didn't die. He reached to his belt and pulled out a small device. He pressed it against his neck, and Pyrrha saw his body jerk as chemicals flooded his system. Combat stimulants made for human physiology, things that would kill most other species but just made humans stronger for a short time. Marcus stood back up, switched his rifle to his other hand, and kept firing. His squad rallied around him, laying down covering fire. They pushed the Voron back meter by meter, their battle cries echoing across the burning city. Within 2 hours of landing, the humans had established a defensive perimeter around the main Kashyyyk settlement. They set up automated guns, deployed shields, and dug fighting positions. They moved with the efficiency of people who had done this 1,000 times before. Captain Chen landed with the command shuttle and found Marcus directing his Marines. Sergeant, report, perimeter secure. Captain, we've got maybe 2,000 Kashyyyk civilians in the fortress. Wounded are being moved to our medical area. Enemy pulled back to regroup, but they'll be back. Casualties, 12 wounded. Uncritical, the armor held up good. Marcus looked at the fortress. Captain, these people are miners and artists. They never had a chance against the swarm. Sarah nodded. She had seen the Kashyyyk children watching from the windows, their large eyes filled with fear and hope. Then we make sure they survive. Hold this line, Sergeant. Yes, ma'am. Marcus paused. Captain, why are we doing this? We don't know these people. This isn't our fight. Sarah looked at him steadily. A child called for help, Marcus. That's all the reason we need. As night fell on Kashyyyk, for Pyrrha found the courage to approach one of the human guards. Marcus looked down at the small alien girl with the big eyes and soft fur. She was shaking with fear, but she still came forward. Why? She asked in broken coalition standard language. Why you come? Marcus knelt down so he was at her level. His armor made him look like a monster, but his voice was gentle. Because you called for help, little one, and where humans come from, we don't leave people behind. Pyrrha started to cry, and Marcus stayed there with her until her mother came to take her away. High above in orbit, the Voron hive mind analyzed the new threat. These humans were more dangerous than calculated. It sent a signal across space calling for more ships, more soldiers. This world was now a priority target. The humans would be destroyed. The Aurelian Coalition Council chamber was older than most civilizations. Representatives from 30 different species gathered in the great circular room, their forms ranging from gas clouds to crystalline beings to creatures that looked almost like trees. They all watched the same holographic display floating in the center of the chamber. They were watching humans fight. High Counselor Ver, an elderly Aurelian whose blue skin had faded to pale silver with age, spoke first. This is unprecedented. A completely unknown species has engaged in military action. within coalition space without permission or even introduction. They're not military, said Ambassador Threll, a insectoid being from Chitaria, her translator made her. Clicking sounds into words, our scans show that vessel is a colony ship. Those are civilians fighting down there. Civilians, Ver looked back at the display. A human soldier was carrying a wounded Cache child to safety while firing his weapon with one hand. If those are civilians, what are there? Actual soldiers. Like the display shifted to show new data. A coalition science team had been analyzing every scrap of information they could gather about Earth and its inhabitants. What they found was terrifying. Dr. Sesh, a floating jellyfish-like being in a containment suit, presented the findings. His voice bubbled through his translator. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. To put that in perspective, only 0.03% of all known planets fall into that category. The gravity alone would. Most of our species' atmospheric oxygen content causes rapid oxidation of metals and supports combustion at frightening rates. He brought up images of Earth's predators. Lions hunting in packs, sharks cutting through water, bears that could tear apart vehicles. Humans evolved alongside these creatures. They survived by becoming endurance predators. They can run for days without stopping, tracking prey until it collapses from exhaustion. Their bodies regulate temperature through liquid secretion, allowing them to operate in extreme heat. They have exceptional pattern recognition and can throw objects with deadly accuracy, skill almost unique in the galaxy. Another counselor, a methane-breathing species that looked like living shadow, spoke up. This explains their combat capability, but not their motivation. Why would they risk themselves for the Cache? They have no alliance, no treaty, no trade relationship. According to our observers, they had never even heard of Cache 4 before receiving the distress call. No one had an answer. On the surface of Cache 4, the battle entered its third day. The humans had turned the area around the fortress into a killing field. Any Voron that approached was met with devastating fire, but the swarm had adapted, sending waves of drones to probe for weaknesses. Testing the human defenses, Dr. Yuki Tanaka had not slept in 72 hours. The medical bay was filled with wounded, both human and cassette. Her hands moved with practiced precision as she treated a Cache miner who had been caught in an explosion. The alien's biology was different from human, but the basics were the same. Stop the bleeding, stabilize the patient, save the life. Doctor, we have 3 more incoming, called her assistant, Corporal Brooks. 2 Cache, 1 human. The human took shrapnel to the leg. Bring them in. Yuki finished sealing the wound on her current patient and moved to the next bed. She didn't care if they were human or alien. Pain was pain, fear was fear, and everyone deserved someone to fight for their life. A young Cache medic named Solith watched the human doctor work. He had studied medicine for years, but he had never seen anyone work with such intensity and focus. How do you keep going? He asked in careful coalition standard. Yuki looked up at him, her eyes red from exhaustion. Because they need me, that's enough. Saleh thought about his own people who valued rest and balance and taking time to appreciate beauty. These humans were different. They pushed themselves past all reasonable limits. They fought when anyone else would surrender. They saved lives when they should be saving their own. You are very strange, Salith said. Softly, Yuki smiled. You're not the first to say that now. Hand me that coagulant. We're losing time. In the command center, Captain Chen studied the tactical displays. The Voron were regrouping for another assault. Her Marines were exhausted. Ammunition was running low. The Perseverance in orbit had already fought off 3 attacks on the ship itself. Captain incoming. Transmission from the coalition, reported her communications officer. They want to talk to you, Sarah. Straightened her uniform, put them through. The holographic image of High Counselor Verath appeared. He looked at Sarah with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Captain Chen, I am High Counselor Verth of the Aurelian Coalition. Your actions have created quite a situation. Counselor, are you here to help or complain? Ver blinked, surprised by her directness. I need to understand, why are you doing this? You are colonists. You have families on your ship. Children, yet you're fighting a war for people you don't know in a place you have no claim to. Sarah looked at the display showing Kashyyyk Diffie's surface. She could see her people fighting, dying, sacrificing everything. Counselor, on Earth we have thousands of languages, different cultures, different beliefs, different ways of seeing the universe, but we learned something during our darkest time when we almost destroyed ourselves. We learned that there are some things that matter more than borders or species or differences. And what is that? That when someone calls for help, you answer, not because you'll get something from it, not because they're the same as you, but because it's the right thing to do. Sarah leaned forward. Your coalition received the same distress call we did. You had ships closer than us. You had the resources to help, but you did nothing. You let those people face extinction alone. We may be from a death world, Counselor, but at least we haven't lost our humanity. The council chamber was silent. Ver felt shame burn through him. She was right. They had abandoned the cache because it was too risky, too expensive, too dangerous. They had made the practical choice. These humans had made the moral one. What do you need? Farth asked quietly. Medical supplies, food and ammunition. We're going to hold this line, but we need support. And if the coalition sends ships to help. Sarah smiled grimly. Then we and LT Uncan GT, LLB. Happy to fight beside you. Transmission ended. Barath turned to the council. We have been shamed by primitives from an uncounted world. They cross space to save people we chose to abandon. I motion that we send immediate military support to Kashyyyk. 4. The vote was not unanimous, but it passed. For the first time in coalition history, they would fight alongside a species they had never officially met. On Kashyyyk, Furuf Marcus and his squad prepared for the next assault. They had been fighting for 3 days straight, catching sleep-in shifts, eating ration bars between firefights. They were tired, hurt, and running low on everything. But when Pyrrha and the other cached children brought them water and food, scavenged from the ruins, when the cached elders thanked them with tears in their eyes, Marcus knew why they were here. Sergeant Webb, Captain Chen's voice came through his helmet. Coalition forces are en route. We just need to hold for another 12 hours. We can do 12 hours standing on our heads, Captain. Marcus looked at his squad. They were all beat up, all exhausted, but they were all still standing. You hear that? Marines, the cavalry is coming. We just Need to make sure there's something left to save when they get here, or they shouted back across the galaxy. Species watched the humans and asked themselves questions they had never considered before. What did it mean to be civilized? Was it about technology and culture and art, or was it about standing up when someone needed you, even when it cost you everything? The humans were forcing them to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves. And high above HFY, sensors detected new ships dropping out of faster than light travel, lots of ships. The Voron swarm's main battle fleet had arrived, 200 warships against one colony ship and a handful of defenders. The real battle was about to begin. The sensors on the Perseverance screamed warnings as 200 Voron warships materialized in orbit around HFY. On the bridge, Captain Chen watched the tactical display light up with hostile contacts. Her crew fell silent, understanding what this meant. They were going to die here, Captain said. Commander Lau quietly. We should evacuate, get everyone back on the ship, and jump to FTL before they box us in. We tried, no one can say we didn't try. Sarah looked at the planet below where her Marines were still fighting, where Kashyyyk families huddled in the ruins, praying for salvation. No, we hold. Captain, I said we hold. Sarah turned to her crew. I know what I'm asking. I know. We're just a colony ship. I know we have families aboard, people who signed up to build a new world, not fight a war. But if we run now, everyone down there dies. Every single one of them. And GT, can you live with that? And GT, the bridge crew looked at each other. Then one by one, they returned to their stations, weapons ready, Captain said. The tactical officer, engineering. Reports, all power to shield, said. Another, communications online, waiting for orders. Sarah felt pride swell in her chest. These were good people, brave people. Send a message to those Voron ships. Tell them that humanity claims protection over Kashyyyk. Any attack on the planet will be considered an act of war against Earth. Captain Earth doesn't even know we're here. We're months away from any support. They don't know that. Send the message. On the surface, Marcus received the situation update from his helmet display. 200 ships. He looked at his squad, at the Kashyyyk defenders who had been learning human tactics at the fortress walls that they had all bled to protect. Well, that's just rude, he said. His squad laughed. It was the kind of laughter soldiers make when they know they're about to die but refuse to show fear. Listen up. Command says the coalition is sending help, but it'll take time. So here's what we do. We make these Voron regret ever coming to this world. We show them what humans do when someone threatens people under our protection. How do we fight 200 ships? Sarge asked. Corporal Yamamoto. Marcus grinned. We don't fight the ships, we fight the bastards they send down here, and we make it so expensive in blood that they give up. Remember your training. Humans are endurance predators. We don't have to win fast, we just have to outlast them. He turned to Saleth, the Kashyyyk medic who had been watching the humans with amazement. You know these mines better than anyone. Show us the tunnels. Show us every cave, every passage, every place we can use. Saleth understood immediately. Guerrilla warfare, hit and fade, use the planet itself as a weapon. Now you're thinking like a human. The Voron hive mind analyzed the situation. The human ship was outnumbered and Outgunned, the ground forces were. Isolated, victory was inevitable. It sent a communication toward the Perseverance transmitted in coalition. Standard human vessel, you are surrounded, surrender the planet and depart, you will be allowed to leave. Unharmed, Captain Chen's response was broadcast not just to the Voron but across every coalition frequency. She wanted the galaxy to hear this. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Colony. Ship Perseverance, I speak for humanity and for the 3,000 souls aboard this vessel. We have received your demand and I have a response. She paused, making sure every word was recorded. Humanity doesn't abandon those who need us. Kashyyyk people called for help and we answered. We will continue to protect them until either they are safe or every single human on this planet is dead. If you want this world, you'll have to go through every last one of us, and I promise you, we will make you pay for every meter of ground. Then she closed the channel and turned to her crew. Now let's show them that humans aren't just good at making promises, we're good at keeping them too. The battle began. The Voron fleet opened fire on the Perseverance. The colony ship shields flared under the assault, absorbing energy that would have vaporized most vessels, but shields can only take so much. Bit by bit they began to fail. On the ground, Voron dropships began landing by the hundreds. They thought overwhelming numbers would break the human defense. They didn't understand what they were facing. Marcus led his Marines into the mining tunnels under the Kashyyyk city. The Kashyyyk miners had shown them passages that went for Killam underground, a maze that only locals knew. The humans placed explosives at key junctions and waited. When the Voron soldiers marched into the city, they found it empty. No defenders, no resistance. They spread out to search. And that's when the humans struck. Tunnels collapsed, dropping Voron soldiers into deep shafts. Explosives tore through their formations. Human Marines appeared from hidden passages, fired their weapons, and vanished back into the darkness before the Voron could respond. It was chaos, brutal and efficient. The Voron hive mind had never encountered this kind of warfare. It was used to fighting species that valued honor and direct combat. Humans fought to win, and they used every dirty trick their violent history had taught them. In one section of the mines, Corporal Yamamoto and her team discovered that HFY's atmosphere had high concentrations of methane gas in certain caverns. She rigged explosives to rupture the gas pockets when Varen soldiers passed through. The resulting fireball consumed an entire battalion. In another area, human engineers worked with Kashyyyk mechanics to convert mining equipment into improvised weapons. Heavy drilling machines became battering rams, or crushers became traps. Even the magnetic rail systems used to move materials were turned into weapons that could launch metal debris at supersonic speeds. The Kashyyyk people watched in amazement. They had thought of their mining equipment as tools of peace and industry. The humans saw them as weapons waiting to be used. Elder Priest Marth approached Captain Chen in the command center. Your people fight with such ferocity, but I also see your medics treating our wounded before your own. Your soldiers sharing their rations with our children. How can you be so violent and so kind at the same time? Sarah looked at the old priest. Because Earth taught us that life is brutal and beautiful at the same time. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to fight, yes, but we also learned that survival means protecting each other. The strong defend the weak, the healthy care for the sick. We're dangerous because we had to be. We're compassionate because we chose to be. I do not understand your species. Machar said softly, neither do we. Sometimes, but we're here and we're not. Leaving above the planet, the Perseverance was dying. Fires burned in multiple sections. The shields were down. Crew members worked desperately to keep life support running, but still, the ship fought, its weapons tearing into any Voron vessel that came too close. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Rodriguez diverted power from non-essential systems to weapons. Captain, I can give you one more big shot, but it'll burn out the main cannon. We won't get a second chance. Target their command ship, the big one, in the center of their formation, ma'am. Even if we hit it, they'll tear us apart. Immediately after, I know, do it anyway. The Perseverance's main weapon, designed to clear debris from colony sites, charged up for the last time. It fired a lance of coherent energy that cut through space and struck the Voron command vessel. The enemy ship exploded in a ball of fire. Then the Voron fleet opened fire with everything they had. The Perseverance shuddered under the assault armor peeling away, systems failing. On the bridge, Sarah gripped her chair. As the ship died around her, evacuate all non-essential personnel to the planet. Get the children to the escape pods. Captain, the pods won't make it through that fire. Then we make them a path. Helm, take us down full burn right into their formation. Commander Lau. Understood. You're going to ram them. If we're going to die, we take as many of them with us as we can. Sarah opened a shipwide channel. This is the captain. It has been an honor serving with all of you. Tell the story of what we did here. Tell them that humanity stands for something. Tell them we don't abandon our friends. As the Perseverance began its death dive toward the Voron fleet, every human on board sang. It was an old song from Earth, one that soldiers had sung in 1,000 wars, a song about standing together when all hope was gone, about fighting for something bigger than yourself. The coalition observers watched in stunned silence. They were watching 3,000 people choose to die rather than abandon a world they had known for less than a week. They're insane, whispered Junior Observer Tellus. No, said Commander Yellish. They're human and we should have been here with them from the start. She opened a communication channel to the coalition fleet that was still hours away. This is Commander Yalish at Monitoring Station 7. I am transmitting the coordinates of the battle at Cacheti. If you don't get there in time to save these humans, we will have failed something important. We will have failed ourselves. Then she watched as the Perseverance, burning and broken, dove toward the enemy fleet like a falling star, and just as it seemed all was lost, sensors detected new FTL signatures, lots of them. The coalition had arrived. The coalition fleet materialized in a perfect battle formation, 50 warships strong. They were ships from a dozen different species, each one armed with weapons that had defended the galaxy for centuries. At their head was the battle cruiser Unity's Voice, commanded by Admiral Kelleth of the Aurelian military. The Admiral looked at his tactical display and saw the Perseverance falling toward the Voron fleet, trailing fire and debris. He saw the human colony ship, dying but defiant, still trying to protect the world below. All ships Engage the Voron fleet, fire at will. Show them that the Coalition protects those under our watch. He paused and show those humans they're not alone anymore. The Coalition weapons opened. Fire and space lit up with energy beams and missile trails. The Voron fleet, surprised by the sudden appearance of reinforcements, tried to regroup, but they were caught between the dying Perseverance and the fresh Coalition forces. The battle turned into chaos. On the bridge of the Perseverance, Captain Chen watched the Coalition ships tear into the Voron formation. Relief and disbelief war in her chest. Helm, pull up. Emergency power to attitude. Thrusters, get us level. I don't know if we can, Captain. Half our systems are gone. Try anyway. We didn't come all this way just to crash into the ocean. The crew worked desperately. The ship groaned and shuddered, metal screaming under stress, but slowly, impossibly, the Perseverance began to level out. It fell toward Kashyyy's surface in a barely controlled descent. Engines sputtering, but no longer on a collision course with the Voron fleet. Brace for impact, Sarah shouted. This is going to be rough. The Perseverance hit the ocean 10 km from the Kashyy city. The impact broke the ship in half, but the forward section stayed intact. Emergency systems kicked in, sealing bulkheads, keeping the water out. Crew was battered and bruised, but alive. In orbit, the Coalition fleet drove the Voron ships back. Admiral Kelleth coordinated the assault with practiced precision. Within 2 hours, the remaining Voron vessels jumped to FTL and fled, leaving their ground forces stranded. On the surface, Marcus and his Marines emerged from the tunnels to find the Voron soldiers in disarray. Without the hive mind's direct control from the ships above, the drones were confused and slow. It was almost easy to finish them off. When the last Voron soldier fell, Marcus sat down on a pile of rubble and took off his helmet. His face was covered in dirt and dried blood. His armor was scorched and dented, but he was smiling. "We did it," said Corporal Yamamoto, sitting next to him. "We actually did it." Never doubted it for a second. Marcus lied. They both laughed too tired to care. Kashyy children began emerging from the shelters, looking around at the destroyed city and the strange aliens who had saved them. Piera ran to Marcus and hugged his armored leg. He patted her head gently, careful not to hurt her with his gauntlets. "Thank you," she said in her small voice. "Thank you for staying." Marcus felt something tight in his chest. "Anytime, kid, anytime." 3 days later, Coalition medical ships and supply vessels filled the orbit around Kashyy. Foe engineers worked to pull the Perseverance's sections from the ocean and assess if the ship could be repaired. The answer was no, but the humans didn't seem to care. They were too busy helping the Kashyy rebuild their city. High Counselor Vareth landed at the makeshift spaceport and requested a meeting with Captain Chen. He found her in what used to be a Kashyy school, now converted into a coordination center for reconstruction efforts. Sarah was planning housing for refugees when the counselor arrived. She stood and offered a tired salute. "Counselor, thank you for coming, and thank you for the support. You saved a lot of lives." "No, Captain. You saved them. We merely helped finish what you started." Vareth looked around at the humans and Kashyy working side by side, clearing rubble, building shelters, treating the wounded. "I came to formally apologize on behalf of the Coalition. We received the same distress Call you did. We had the resources to help, but we chose not to act. We let fear guide our decisions, and then you came anyway. That takes courage too. Your words shamed us into action. Without you, we would have let these people die. Farth pulled out a data tablet. The Coalition Council has voted unanimously to offer Earth membership in the Coalition, along with full trading rights and access to our technology database. We would be honored to count humanity among our members. Sarah took the tablet but didn't look at it. I'll have to send this to Earth and let them decide. But counselor, I need you to understand something. We didn't do this for trade deals or technology or membership. We did it because it was right. I know. That's why we want you to join us. The Coalition has grown comfortable, complacent. We've forgotten what it means to stand for something. You reminded us. Ver gestured to the window where Kashyyyk and humans worked together. You've also created quite a problem. Every species in the Coalition is asking questions now. Why did unknown aliens care more about Kashyyyk 4 than we did? What does it say about us that primitives from an uncounted world showed more courage than our fleets? We're not primitive, Sarah said with a slight smile. We're just new to the neighborhood. Fair enough. There's another matter. The battle cost you dearly. Our count shows 847 human casualties dead defending a world they'd known for less than a week. Sarah felt the weight of those numbers. 847 people. She knew every name, every face. They died heroes. We'll make sure their families know that. The Kashyyyk people are asking permission to hold a memorial service. They want to honor your dead according to both human and Kashyyyk traditions. They want to make sure your people are remembered. That would be good. Thank you. Memorial was held in the ruins of the Central Plaza. The Kashyyyk had built a monument from pieces of the destroyed city, a sculpture showing humans and Kashyyyk standing together. Around it, they planted trees from both worlds, seeds brought from Earth on the Perseverance and native Kashyyyk specimens. Elder Priest Makter spoke first. His words translated for the humans. We called into the darkness, expecting no answer. We prayed for salvation, expecting none, but you came. You strange, fierce, beautiful people from a world we had never heard of. You bled for us, you died for us, and we will never forget. Then Captain Chen spoke, her voice steady despite the tears on her face. We lost 847 people here, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, friends and lovers. They were colonists who wanted to build a new world, not soldiers looking for glory. But when they heard people crying for help, they didn't hesitate. They showed the best of what humanity can be. They showed that strength without compassion is just cruelty, but compassion without strength is just words. They had both. She looked at the cachet gathered around the monument. You asked why we came. Because you needed us, that's all. That's everything. Where we come from, we have a saying: we leave no one behind. It doesn't matter if you're human or alien, friend or stranger. If you need help, we answer. That's the promise humanity makes to the galaxy. The ceremony ended with both species honoring their dead in their own ways. The humans sang their soldier songs. Kashyyyk performed their funeral dance. And somehow it fit together. Two different people united by shared grief and hope. 1 year later, the planet, formerly known as Kashyyyk TV, had a new name. In human languages, remembrance. The Cachette kept their own name for it, but they understood what the humans meant. This was the place where the galaxy changed. The human colony that was supposed to settle elsewhere decided to stay. They rebuilt the cities alongside the Cachette, creating something new, a world where two species lived and worked together. It became a symbol across the coalition, proof that different peoples could unite for something greater. Perseverance was beyond repair, but its whole sections were converted into monuments and museums. Children from dozens of species came to see the ship that had stood against impossible odds on Earth. Humanity received the coalition's invitation and accepted, but they made it clear that membership came with conditions. If the coalition received distress calls, they would answer them, all of them, no more debates about whether it was safe or profitable or convenient. The galaxy agreed. The humans had taught them something important. Marcus stayed on remembrance training, both human and Kusht in defensive tactics. He adopted Pyrrha after her parents died in the battle, raising her as his own daughter. She grew up speaking both languages, belonging to both cultures, a living bridge between two worlds. One evening, Marcus found her looking at the stars. She was 14 now, tall and confident, wearing the mixed clothing styles of both her peoples. Thinking about your parents, he asked gently. Thinking about that day when you came down from the sky. She looked at him. Why did you stay, Marcus? You could have left when the battle was over, gone to another colony world. Marcus thought about it. Because this is home now, your home. Sometimes you don't choose where you belong, it chooses you. Is that a human saying? It is now. He put his arm around her shoulders. Come on, your homework isn't going to do itself. Can I use the excuse that I saved humanity from educational boredom? Nice. Try inside now. As they walked back to their home, the monument in the plaza caught the setting sun. On it, written in both human and cassette languages, was a simple message. They thought the SOS was lost, that no one heard their cry. But the galaxy learned that day, as long as one human draws breath, no call for help goes unanswered. This is the promise, this is the oath. We leave no one behind. Across the coalition, on 100 worlds, people looked at those words and felt something shift inside them. The humans had changed the galaxy, not through conquest or technology, but through something simpler and more profound. They had showed everyone what it meant to care, and the galaxy would never be the same. High in orbit, coalition patrol ships kept watch over remembrance, not because the humans needed protection anymore, but because this world mattered. It was where they had all learned to be better. It was where they learned that sometimes the scariest thing in the universe isn't a death world predator, it's a death world predator who refuses to let you face the darkness alone.